The story begins in a city in America, where we see a huge lake, and deep beneath the dark water, a car was sinking. Inside that car were a boy named Paris and his mother. Although Paris was still conscious, his mother's condition had become critical. She couldn't breathe, and her arms and legs had gone completely limp, to the point where she couldn't even move. But instead of thinking about himself, Paris desperately tried to unbuckle his mother's seatbelt. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't do it. Because he was running out of air, he was forced to swim up to the surface. After that, he desperately searched for his mother. But unfortunately, he couldn't find any sign of her. Right there in the lake, he lost his mother forever. This tragic incident happened to Paris on the day he and his mother were driving home across the lake bridge. That day, his mother was the one driving the car. She was actually a very skilled driver, but the moment they reached the bridge over the lake, something suddenly happened to her. Her hands and legs started shaking uncontrollably, and within seconds, she lost control of the car, causing it to plunge straight into the deep water below. That was where Paris's mother lost her life. But Paris could never accept his mother's death. The tragedy left a deep emotional scar, one that he has never been able to forget. So, after the accident, when the police investigated the case and the doctors performed the autopsy, Paris learned from the doctor that his mother had suffered a seizure while driving. It's a medical condition that affects the brain, and because of that, she lost control of her body that day. But even after hearing that, Paris couldn't accept what had happened, because before that day, his mother had never experienced anything like it. She had always been completely healthy. That one tragic accident completely changed Paris's life. Without his mother, his life felt completely meaningless. That's why he was absolutely devastated. Then, as time passed, nearly 4 years went by. But even after all that time, Paris still couldn't accept his mother's death. In fact, ever since that day, he spent most of his time at the lake. He came there almost every single day. He even gave up his career, and instead he found a job at the lake. He worked as a salvage diver. His job was to recover abandoned items from the bottom of the lake, and he made a living by selling whatever he found. As long as he was at the lake, he felt like he was still close to his mother. But seeing Paris in that condition, his father, Henry, became deeply worried. He often tried to make Paris understand that everyone has to leave this world someday, one way or another. His mother had passed away as well, so now he needed to move on and start thinking about his own life. But Paris never listened to his father's advice. He always wanted to stay at the lake whenever he could, because he had developed a strange connection with it. Eventually, Paris's father, Henry, gave up trying to change his mind, and he let Paris live his life the way he wanted. But now, the closest person in Paris's life was C. She was the woman he loved. She was the only one who truly understood him. She respected his feelings. She never thought Paris was doing anything wrong, because it was at the lake where Paris had lost his mother. So she believed that maybe being there made him feel closer to her love. That's why C never tried to stop him. In fact, she always did her best to keep him happy. Meanwhile, we meet a girl named Ellie. She lived very close to the lake, and just like Paris, her life also revolved around this lake. Like Paris, she had become lost in the mystery of the lake. She also spent most of her time there, because her heart carried just as much pain as Paris's. The truth is, when Ellie was very young, her father suddenly left her and her mother, Celestia. Later, however, her mother married a man named Daniel, and they had another daughter together. Her name was Anna. Even though Ellie now lived with her family, she still felt completely alone. She also felt like she never truly belonged in that family. She never received the place she believed she deserved. Ever since she was little, her parents had always shown far more love to her younger sister. That's why Ellie carried so much pain inside. To her, it felt like she had everything, yet nothing at all. Then one day, Ellie's family was hosting a family gathering, and all of their relatives had come over. But even there, it seemed like no one paid any attention to Ellie. Just then, Ellie's younger sister, Anna, walked in. She was carrying several dead butterflies in her hand. Seeing them, Anna's uncle was completely amazed. He asked her where she had found them. He explained that these butterflies belonged to an extremely rare species. In fact, they were almost extinct. Anna's father was overjoyed. He praised his daughter and asked where she had found those butterflies. Anna replied that she had taken a boat across the lake to Court Island, and she said that thousands of those butterflies could be found there. So, on her way back, she brought a few of them with her. Everyone praised Anna for such a small thing. They called her brave and intelligent. But Ellie had never received even that much appreciation in her entire life. Deep down, it really hurt her. Later, after everyone had left the house, Ellie's mother, Celestia, was cleaning everything up. At that moment, Ellie walked over to her. This time, she directly asked her mother who her real father was. She said she didn't believe that her father had simply abandoned them. Maybe he had died. And if that was true, she wanted her mother to give her his death certificate because she needed to fill out her college admission form. And she didn't want to write Daniel's name in the space for her father because Daniel had never treated her like a daughter. Ellie's mother, Celestia, replied, "How many times do I have to tell you, your father didn't die? He left us for another woman when you were little. Even after all this time, how can you still be asking about him?" After that, Celestia reminded Ellie of something from her childhood. She told her about the day she had taken her to a park. That was the day they ran into the woman her father had left them for. Right in front of Ellie, her mother had gotten into a huge argument with that woman. Celestia asked if she really didn't remember any of it. But the truth was, Ellie had never believed her mother's story, even as a child. She always felt like her mother was making it all up. She believed that maybe it wasn't her father who had left them. Maybe her mother had left her father for Daniel instead. Ellie had suspected that for a long time. Later, when Celestia wasn't in her room, Ellie quietly sneaked inside. She started searching through the entire room, looking for anything that could tell her the truth about her father. Even if he had died, she at least wanted to find his death certificate. Just then, her little sister Anna walked in. While Ellie was searching through her father's belongings, Anna picked up a small locket. Then she asked Ellie if she could keep it. Ellie said yes. Even though Ellie hated the rest of her family, she loved her little sister very much. But at that moment, Celestia and Daniel walked in. When Celestia saw Ellie going through her things, she became furious. She started yelling at her and said many hurtful things. She even told Ellie that giving birth to a daughter like her had been the biggest mistake of her life. She said she had never seen such a disobedient child before. Those words deeply hurt Ellie. She didn't want to stay in that house for even one more moment, so she quickly packed a few of her belongings and got into her boat. She left home and headed toward a friend's house. But after traveling quite a distance across the lake, her boat suddenly came to a stop in the middle of the water. Ellie realized that the lake had become shallow because it hadn't rained for several days. Just then, she looked around the area, and she realized that she had reached the edge of Court Island, the same place where her sister had found the butterfly. Court Island was actually a high area in the middle of the lake. When the water level dropped for a long time, it turned into an island, and whenever the lake dried up, this island would appear. Ellie tried to push her boat forward again, but just then, her eyes fell on Court Island. As she looked over, she saw several strange white creatures. They were actually a group of bears. Seeing them, Ellie was completely shocked, because finding bears in a place like Court Island was almost impossible. She kept watching them very carefully, but then the bears walked behind a tree, and the next moment they seemed to disappear into thin air. It was as if they had never been there at all. Ellie wondered if she had imagined the whole thing. Everything about it felt incredibly strange. She quickly moved her boat away from that area. Then she continued on and finally reached her friend's house. There, Ellie told her friend that she had made up her mind. She was never going back to her family again. No matter how difficult life became, she would live on her own terms. After saying that, Ellie fell asleep. But the very next morning, she received a voice message from her mother, Celestia. Through tears, Celestia said that Anna was missing. Even after searching everywhere, they couldn't find her. The day before, when Ellie had left home, Anna had taken a boat to try to stop her, but she had never come back. Hearing that, Ellie's whole body went cold. Because she truly loved her little sister, Anna, she became extremely worried about her. Without wasting another second, she quickly got into her boat and headed back home. After that, she tied up her boat and walked into the house. As soon as she stepped inside, she saw that her mother, Celestia, and Daniel were extremely worried. They had been searching for Anna non-stop, and they were almost going crazy with worry. Anna was still so young, so it was only natural for them to be terrified. Celestia immediately called the police, explained everything, and asked them to help find her daughter. Meanwhile, Daniel saw Ellie and asked her for the key to her boat. He wanted to take the boat and go search for Anna himself. After Ellie handed him the key, Daniel was just about to leave in the boat when something very strange happened. He realized that the boat was gone, but Ellie had just tied it up outside before coming into the house, so she couldn't understand where the boat had disappeared to. Ellie became even more frightened. Through tears, she told her mother and Daniel that they didn't have much time. Ever since yesterday, she had been noticing strange things happening around the lake, so they needed to join the police and find Anna as quickly as possible. After that, Ellie and her parents headed straight to the police station. Then they set out with the police by boat to search for Anna. Meanwhile, we see Paris. Just like every other day, he was working at the lake. Today, he came to Court Island looking for valuable items. There, he spotted an old oil pump, so he immediately walked over to recover it. But as soon as he got close to the oil pump and took a few more steps forward, he noticed something very strange. Every time he stepped on the ground, a mysterious light appeared beneath his feet. It felt as if some supernatural force was hidden there. At first, Paris thought he was just imagining it, but when he moved a little farther ahead, he suddenly realized that his hearing was completely gone. He couldn't hear a single sound around it. That terrified him. He quickly started making his way out of that area, but it was clear that Paris's condition was getting worse. His hands and legs were shaking uncontrollably, just like his mother's had. It was the same thing that had happened to her before the accident that took her life. Somehow, Paris managed to get past that area. The moment he did, he heard his co-worker David calling to him from the boat. David told him that debris had gotten tangled in the boat's propeller. That was why the boat wouldn't run properly. So Paris hurried over to the boat and started clearing the debris away. But just then, he found a locket in his hand. This locket didn't belong to anyone else. It belonged to Anna. It was the same one she had taken yesterday from Celestia's old belongings. The moment Paris saw it, he was completely stunned, because his own mother had owned an identical locket. So Paris began to wonder if this might actually have been his mother's locket. After everything that had happened to him at the lake that day, all of this felt incredibly mysterious. So later that day, he quickly went back to his girlfriend, C. He told her everything that had happened. Together, they decided to uncover the truth about the lake, because Paris wanted to learn the real mystery behind it. Meanwhile, Paris still had one of his father's old journals. When he opened it, he found several dates written inside. Those were the exact dates when his mother had suffered seizure attacks, the condition that had eventually led to her death. That's when Paris realized that his mother had experienced seizures long before the accident. But after reading more documents about the lake, he was even more shocked, because he noticed a strange pattern on the lake's map. As he studied it, he realized that over the years, every time different parts of the lake had dried up, the same years and time periods matched the dates of his mother's seizure attacks. Even 4 years earlier, when his mother had suffered the seizure that caused the fatal accident, the lake had also dried up at that exact time. All of this felt incredibly strange to Paris. After thinking about it for a long time, he became completely convinced that there had to be some connection between his mother's seizures and the lake. He believed that the lake was hiding a secret that no one knew about. Later, when Paris shared all of this with his girlfriend, C, she told him that he was overthinking everything. She believed all of these events were nothing more than a coincidence. She couldn't understand how a lake could possibly have anything to do with his mother's death. To her, it had simply been a tragic accident. She had spent years watching Paris suffer because of his past, and she couldn't bear to see it anymore. She wanted him to finally move on with his life. So she told him, "For all these years, I've supported everything you've done, but now I want you to get your life back. We can't change what happened in the past, no matter how badly we want to. It's time for you to start a new life with me. You're not the only person in the world who has lost their mother, so why do you keep torturing yourself over the same tragedy every single day?" But hearing those words from C hurt Paris deeply, so he told her that he had always believed she was different from everyone else. He thought that at least she would understand him, but that belief was shattered today. Angry and frustrated, Paris got into his car and drove back to the lake. Only one thought was running through his mind. No matter what it took, he would uncover the real cause of his mother's death. Meanwhile, we see Ellie and her family, who were still searching for Anna alongside the police. They had thoroughly searched the lake and every surrounding area, but there was still no sign of Anna. As a result, Ellie and her parents were overwhelmed with worry. Even the police search team had become exhausted after searching for so long. But Ellie refused to give up. After all, Anna had gone missing while following Ellie in an attempt to find her. Because of that, Ellie blamed herself for everything that had happened. Without wasting another second, she rushed back home, took her boat, and headed once again toward the lake. She searched every corner of it, calling Anna's name over and over. She even visited every island that had emerged after the lake's water had dried up. But Anna was nowhere to be found. Ellie had no idea where she could have gone. She spent the entire day searching the lake without stopping. Without even realizing it, night had fallen. Eventually, Ellie reached Court Island in her boat. Once again, the boat became stuck on a stretch of dry land. She struggled to free it, but just then, she noticed the lights of the police search team in the distance. She also saw a helicopter flying overhead, still searching tirelessly for Anna. The sight of the police frightened Ellie. She knew that if they spotted her, they would force her to leave the area, and she would no longer be able to search for her sister, Anna. So, to avoid being seen, she quickly climbed out of her boat and hid behind a massive tree. A moment later, the helicopter's searchlight began sweeping toward her. Ellie immediately ran to escape it, but as she sprinted through the area, she kept colliding with invisible beams of light, the same mysterious phenomenon that Paris had noticed earlier. Although Ellie could clearly see the strange lights, she ignored them and continued running. She passed through several of these invisible barriers. For a brief moment, it felt as though her entire body and mind had stopped functioning. To her, it was as if time itself had frozen. But when she finally regained her senses, she noticed something shocking. The helicopter was gone. The police search team had disappeared as well. As she walked a little farther ahead, she was even more stunned. Only moments ago, it had been the middle of the night. Now, daylight was slowly spreading across the sky. Ellie assumed that she had become so overwhelmed with worry that she had completely lost track of time. She thought that perhaps she simply hadn't realized when night had turned into morning. Deciding to continue her search, Ellie set off to look for Anna somewhere else. However, she could no longer remember which path she had taken to get there. To make matters worse, she had left her phone back in the boat. Just then, she looked into the distance and spotted a fisherman who appeared to be out on the lake catching fish. When Ellie couldn't find any way back, she finally asked the fisherman for help. With his assistance, she managed to return home in his boat. But the moment she arrived, she was completely stunned. Everything happening around the house felt strangely familiar, as if she had already lived through it before. She saw her mother filing a missing person report with the police, while her father was desperately searching for Anna. It was exactly the same scene she had witnessed the day Anna disappeared. Then Ellie looked out through the window, and fear instantly gripped her. She saw a boat approaching the house, and the person on that boat was herself. It was the same Ellie returning home after searching for Anna, just as she had done that day. She couldn't understand what was happening. After thinking everything through, she finally reached one conclusion. The mysterious lights she had kept running into the previous night must somehow have sent her back in time. Realizing this, Ellie quickly grabbed the boat key. Before her past self entered the house, she slipped out through the back door, took the boat, and left without being seen. At that moment, Ellie finally understood something that had always puzzled her. She now knew why, on that day, her family's boat had mysteriously disappeared. When her father had wanted to use it to search for Anna, it wasn't there, because the future version of Ellie had already taken it away. As Ellie headed back toward Court Island, her hands began trembling violently, just as Paris's hands had shaken after he touched the mysterious light. Meanwhile, Paris was also making his way toward Court Island. As Ellie was heading there, Paris was approaching the same destination. After traveling a little farther, both of them passed beneath the same bridge at nearly the same time, a coincidence that seemed strangely unsettling. The strangest part was that the exact same things were happening to both of them. But there was another shocking detail. The bridge that looked perfectly normal to Paris appeared completely broken and abandoned to Ellie. The reason was actually quite simple. Although Paris and Ellie were standing in the same place, they existed in two different points in time. Paris's story took place in 2003, while Ellie's story began in 2022. In other words, they were separated by nearly 2 decades. Eventually, both of them arrived at Court Island. As soon as Ellie got there, she spotted Anna's boat. Filled with hope, she rushed off to look for her sister. She ran across every part of the island, calling Anna's name over and over again. But in the process, she collided with the mysterious lights twice more. Each time her body froze for several moments, just as it had before. When she recovered, she noticed blood trickling from one of her ears. Even then, Ellie refused to stop. She continued searching desperately for Anna. The most mysterious part, however, was that every time Ellie shouted Anna's name, Paris could hear her voice. He immediately began searching the area, trying to find whoever was calling out. But since they were living in different timelines, they couldn't actually see each other. Only Ellie's voice reached him. Confused, Paris followed the sound, searching everywhere for its source. Meanwhile, Ellie continued frantically searching for Anna. Finally, she spotted her sitting alone inside a boat. Anna sat there quietly, looking heartbroken. The moment Ellie saw her, it felt as though she had gotten her life back. She ran straight toward Anna, wrapped her in a tight embrace, and burst into tears. But instead of hugging her back, Anna pushed Ellie away. Looking hurt and angry, she demanded to know, "Why did you do this?" Anna angrily asked Ellie why she had thrown a plate at their mother and run away from home. She told Ellie that she didn't even want to talk to her anymore. Hearing this, Ellie was terrified. The incident Anna was talking about had happened nearly a month earlier, and the two sisters had already made up. Then Ellie noticed something else. She looked closely at Anna's teeth. Only a few days ago, Anna had lost one of her front teeth, but now, that tooth was still there. At that moment, Ellie realized the truth. She must have traveled even farther back in time through the mysterious light once again. Meanwhile, we return to Paris. In his timeline, night had already fallen. Even so, he continued searching for the source of Ellie's voice. After hearing her cries, he was convinced that someone was in danger. While searching, Paris also passed through the mysterious walls of light several more times. Soon he noticed something impossible. Just moments earlier, it had been nighttime. Now it was broad daylight. Completely confused, Paris had no idea what was happening to him. Then he spotted a young girl lying on the ground in front of him. A large wooden branch had pierced her abdomen. That girl was none other than Anna. This time, one of her front teeth was broken, making everything suddenly clear. This was the younger Anna, the one from the time when she had gone missing while searching for Ellie. She had probably wandered all the way to Court Island looking for her sister. Then, after falling, the sharp piece of wood had pierced her stomach, leaving her unconscious in terrible pain. Without wasting a second, Paris carefully pulled the piece of wood out of Anna's abdomen. Then he lifted her into his arms, carried her forward, and began calling for help from anyone nearby. As Paris carried Anna farther ahead, he noticed something unbelievable. Construction was underway in the middle of the lake, where workers were building a bridge. Only a short while earlier, he had seen nothing but an old wooden bridge in that same place. Even more astonishing, the lake that had been completely filled with water was now totally dry. Seeing all of this, Paris finally understood the truth. The mysterious walls of light were not ordinary lights at all. Each time he passed through them, he had been transported to a different point in time. Perhaps he had even crossed into the future or the past. But at that moment, his only concern was Anna. No matter what, he had to save her life. As he carried her farther along, he spotted a cargo truck nearby. He handed Anna over to the driver and begged him to take her to the nearest hospital immediately. However, the driver's clothes and the appearance of the other workers seemed strangely old-fashioned to Paris. Curious, he asked them what year it was. The driver replied, "It's 1952. Hearing those words, Paris was completely stunned. It felt as though the ground had disappeared beneath his feet. He couldn't believe that he had traveled so far back in time. Terrified, he asked the driver to take good care of the little girl, then turned around and ran back toward Court Island. Paris still had a document showing the historical water levels of the lake. When he checked it, he discovered that from 1946 to 1952, the lake had completely dried up. After studying the records for a long time, he finally reached an important conclusion. The mysterious portal at the lake opened only during the years when the lake's water level dropped and eventually dried up. Paris's accident, and the accident that claimed his mother's life, had happened in 1999. At that time, the lake had also dried up significantly. After putting all the pieces together, Paris became overjoyed. He realized that if the time portal worked the way he believed, he might be able to travel back to 1999 and stop the accident before it ever happened. If he succeeded, his mother could survive. Without wasting another moment, Paris hurried back toward Court Island to search for the mysterious portal once again. Meanwhile, Ellie had already returned the younger Anna safely to her home. After that, she immediately took the boat and headed back to Court Island. As she wandered around the island, she suddenly heard the ringtone of her phone. She followed the sound, moving closer and closer to its source. But just as she reached it, she passed through another time portal. This time, she found herself back in her O. The moment she returned, she found both her boat and her phone, which was still ringing. When Ellie answered the call, she realized it was her father, Daniel. He was extremely worried because they still hadn't found any trace of Anna. Hearing this, Ellie became deeply concerned as well. By now, she had figured out what had happened. Anna hadn't simply disappeared. She had traveled somewhere else through the time portal on Court Island. She was trapped in another point in time. The only problem was that Ellie had no idea how to bring her back. Even so, she made up her mind to enter the time portal once again. She silently promised herself that as long as she was still alive, she would never stop searching for Anna. After all, Anna had gone missing because she had followed Ellie. Ellie felt responsible and was determined to save her sister, no matter the cost. Before entering the portal again, she tied one end of a long, sturdy rope securely around a large tree, hoping it would help her find her way back. Ellie then tied the rope securely around herself and stepped into the time portal. She did this so that if she somehow lost her way, she could simply follow the rope back to her own timeline. Meanwhile, Paris continued passing through one portal after another. Eventually, he arrived at the very point in time where Ellie had tied the rope. Confused, Paris had no idea where the rope led. Out of curiosity, he decided to follow it. At the same time, another version of Ellie had already reached a different point in time. As Paris continued following the rope, he eventually arrived at the same place where Ellie was, the year 2022. However, every journey through the portals took a serious toll on their body. Each crossing caused intense headaches, violent trembling in their hands and legs, and left them physically exhausted. Even so, both of them were driven by a single purpose. Paris wanted to save his mother, while Ellie was determined to rescue her sister. After passing through several more portals, Ellie could no longer tell which time period she had entered. As she walked farther ahead, she discovered a life jacket. Written on it was Anna's name. The jacket looked as though it had been lying there for many years. Although Ellie still had no idea what time she was in, she realized one thing for certain. Anna had been there at some point. Determined not to give up, Ellie continued searching the area for her sister. A little later, she spotted a small boat lying along the edge of the lake. She pulled it upright, pushed it into the water, and continued her search for Anna. Meanwhile, Paris also reached the lake shore, where he came across Ellie's abandoned boat. Paris also took the boat and set off across the lake. At this point, he still had no idea that he was actually in the year 20. As he sailed farther ahead, a police boat suddenly approached and ordered him to stop. It was the same police search team that was still looking for Anna. The officers questioned Paris, asking for his identity and requesting to see his ID card. Paris immediately panicked. He knew he couldn't explain who he was, so he turned the boat around and tried to escape. After speeding away for a short distance, his boat slammed into an obstacle and capsized. Paris was thrown into the lake and suffered several injuries. The police rescued him and placed him under arrest. However, before taking him into custody, they brought him to a hospital for treatment. Meanwhile, Ellie reached another shoreline of the lake, where there was a small settlement. There, she noticed a poster and realized that she was now in the year 2005. 2 years after Paris's original timeline, since Paris came from 2003D. Because she had already found Anna's life jacket in this era, Ellie became convinced that Anna must have somehow passed through 2005R as well. She began showing Anna's photograph to the local residents, asking whether anyone had seen her. Unfortunately, no one recognized the little girl. After continuing her search, Ellie arrived at a parking lot. As she glanced toward one of the parked cars, she noticed a familiar locket hanging inside it. It was the very same locket that Anna had taken from their mother's old belongings. Ellie immediately rushed to the car and tried to retrieve the locket from inside. But just then, the owner of the car walked up to her. The owner of the car turned out to be none other than Paris's girlfriend. She was accompanied by a young child. Mistaking Ellie for a thief, C angrily confronted her and accused her of trying to steal from the car. When she noticed the locket in Ellie's hand, she immediately tried to snatch it away. Just then, several bystanders stepped in and separated the two of them. Ellie desperately shouted, "Where did you get that locket? It belongs to my sister Anna. That's why I came to your car." But C firmly replied, "No, this isn't your sister's locket. It's mine. My boyfriend gave it to me. It originally belonged to his mother." C then showed Ellie a missing person poster of Paris. She explained that Paris had disappeared 2 years earlier, leaving her behind without a word. Not long after his disappearance, she discovered that she was pregnant. Now she was raising their child alone while searching everywhere for him, hoping that one day she would at least learn what had happened to him. Overcome with emotion, C looked at Ellie and asked, "Why did you suddenly come to my car? Why were you trying to take this locket? Did Paris send you to get it? After all, it belonged to his mother, Lynn. Or are you the woman he left me and my child for?" Hearing those words, Ellie suddenly remembered something her mother Celestia had once told her. When Ellie was little, Celestia had said that she had once met a young woman in a parking lot. It was the very woman she believed was the reason Ellie's father had abandoned both her and their daughter. According to Celestia, she had even confronted that woman there and argued with her. Now Ellie realized that her mother had been talking about this exact incident all along. In reality, C was none other than Ellie's mother, and the small child with C was actually Ellie herself, the Ellie from the year 2005. In other words, Ellie's real father was none other than Paris, and Celestia was the same person Paris lovingly called C. Because of the time loop created by Court Island, C had met Ellie in 2005. At that time, Celestia believed Ellie was the woman who had taken Paris away from her. Realizing all of this, Ellie completely lost her composure. Without thinking for another moment, she grabbed the locket and ran away. A massive mystery now stood in front of her, and she could not make sense of it at all. Holding the locket, Ellie began wondering who Paris's mother, Lynn, really was, and what connection did she have with her sister Anna. Searching for answers, Ellie entered a nearby internet cafe where anyone could use the internet. She started looking up information about Paris's mother, Lynn. Meanwhile, we returned to Paris. In our 2028 Ellie's timeline, he was hospitalized. A police officer had handcuffed him and was interrogating him about Anna's disappearance. They suspected that Paris might be involved. While being questioned, Paris suddenly saw a news report on a television screen. It warned that extremely heavy rainfall was coming. The storm was expected to be so intense that it would completely flood the entire lake. Court Island and all surrounding areas would be submerged underwater. Hearing this news, Paris was struck with intense fear, because to him, it felt like if Court Island sank, the portal would disappear too, and then he might never be able to return to his own time again. So, using the excuse of going to the restroom, he somehow managed to escape from the hospital area. He ran and hid inside another section of the hospital. There, on a television news broadcast, he saw an 8-year-old girl named Anna who had gone missing from the lake. It was a current news report. Anna was still being searched for in the present time. When Paris saw Anna's photo on the screen, he was completely shocked. This was the same Anna he had left in 1952. But then something even more shocking hit him. As he looked closely at her face, he suddenly remembered a childhood photo of his mother. And then Paris realized the truth. Anna was not someone else at all. She was actually his mother, Annalyn, the very girl he had left behind in 1952. Because of the rush at that moment, he had never properly seen her face, and because of that, he had made a terrible mistake. Meanwhile, Ellie searched the name Annalyn on a computer. There, she discovered that Paris's mother, Annalyn, was actually a well-known researcher and a highly respected figure. Then, Ellie found a childhood photo of Anna. When she compared it with the picture she had just seen, everything became clear. Annalyn was not just anyone. She was her own sister Anna. The truth finally came together. When Paris left Anna in 1952, she never returned from that place. And from that moment onward, everything that followed had been connected to her existence. Paris had handed Anna over to the people at that time, and those people later raised her as their own child. As she grew up, Anna eventually married Benjamin Lynn, who was actually Paris's father. From there, the entire timeline began to loop back on itself. Paris's birth, and everything that followed, had already been shaped by these events. As seen earlier, passing through the Court Island time portal caused a strange effect on the human body. Their hands and legs would become numb and start shaking. On the day Paris and Anna crossed the bridge over the lake, the time portal suddenly activated. Because of that, Anna's body began to tremble, and their car plunged straight into the lake. That was where Anna lost her life. After learning all of this, Ellie became extremely emotional. She realized the truth. Paris was her father, and Anna was her grandmother. Meanwhile, we see Paris again. He somehow managed to escape from the hospital and made it outside. He stopped a car and threatened the people inside, demanding they get out immediately because he needed the vehicle to return to Court Island as fast as possible. Inside that car were Celestia and Daniel. Because of Paris's threat, they both got out in fear. At first glance, Celestia actually recognized Paris, but Paris did not recognize her. Celestia stood there in shock, unable to say anything. Paris took their car and drove toward Court Island, but immediately, the police began chasing him. When Paris reached the Court Island bridge, he found himself completely surrounded by police from both sides. He immediately got out of the car and ran toward the lakeshore. The police realized that Paris was trying to escape, and they kept warning him to stop. But Paris had no other choice. He jumped straight off the bridge. He began swimming through the lake toward Court Island. While moving through the water, he suddenly noticed a dam ahead. At that moment, he understood why the police had been stopping him. The dam was about to be opened. Paris had not even reached halfway when the dam was fully released. A massive wave rushed through the lake, dragging him deep underwater. In the force of the wave, his head struck a large, hard rock, and there, tragically, Paris died. Meanwhile, after learning the complete truth, Ellie headed straight to Court Island to return to her own timeline. Using the rope she had left behind, she slowly made her way back through the portal path. As she reached the island, the dam had already been opened, and the entire Court Island had begun to sink under the rising water. Ellie quickly passed through the portal and returned to her own time. But just then, her rope snapped. Because of the flooding, the portal on Court Island closed permanently. Ellie had no time to think further. Without a moment's delay, she returned home. Ellie saw her mother Celestia watching the news on TV, completely frozen in shock and grief. The news was showing Paris's picture from 2022, reporting that he was responsible for several missing person cases. It was also said that while trying to escape from the police, he fell into the lake and died. After seeing this report, Ellie's mother Celestia said that Paris was not a criminal at all. She believed he was actually Ellie's father, and that he had been fighting to return to his own time. Ellie then showed her mother a photo of Anna from 1952. And explained everything step by step. She told her how the time portal had changed everything. Ellie also revealed that her father, Paris, never actually abandoned them. Instead, he had become trapped inside the mysteries of Court Island's time loop and had been trying desperately to return to them. But now, Ellie said, everything that had happened was fate. If Paris had been able to return at the right time, then Celestia would not have remarried, Anna would not have been born, and Ellie herself would never have existed. That is why Paris had to die. Otherwise, the entire existence of their timeline could have been erased. Ellie had now learned the full truth about her father. She no longer held any anger toward her mother. For the first time, she emotionally hugged Celestia tightly. She comforted her and said that everything would be all right from now on. They would start a new life together, because Paris had already given his life to make that future possible for them. And with this emotional and thrilling ending, the story comes to a close.